Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. I was standing at the kitchen sink, the sound of running water filling the space, when I felt his breath on my neck. My fingers stilled on the dish I was scrubbing, the world shrinking down to the electric tension that pulsed in that quiet moment. It wasn't the breath of a man who missed his wife, it was the presence of someone who remembered what he used to feel, and couldn't decide if he wanted it back. My name is Elena. I've been married to David for 7 years. We were the kind of couple that made people believe in soulmates, until about a year ago. Something shifted. His eyes started lingering longer on his phone than on me. His laugh changed. Softer. Cautious. Like he was saving the real parts of himself for someone else. And me? I tried. God knows I tried. But love that once bloomed naturally now felt like a performance, staged over breakfast tables and behind closed doors. David still brought me coffee every morning. Still said love you out of habit. But there was a ghost in his touch. A hesitation. And the way he started working late, every night, didn't feel like ambition, it felt like escape. The real twist? I had a secret too. One I buried deep beneath folded laundry and grocery lists. One that started with a conversation I shouldn't have had, and a connection I never expected. It was my best friend's cousin, Noah. He came into town last fall. Tall, patient, with eyes that saw through my silence. Our talks began innocent, comforting. But there's something dangerous about being understood by someone who isn't your husband. Something magnetic. Noah made me feel like the Elena I'd forgotten, before the routines, before the silence. And while David was drifting, I was waking up. That morning in the kitchen, when David pressed close to me, I wondered, was this guilt? Possession? Or something darker? He hadn't touched me like that in months. The way his hands slid around my waist, the way his voice dropped when he whispered my name, it felt like a man trying to claim something slipping through his fingers. But he didn't know how far I'd already gone. And I didn't know if I wanted to come back. Just as I turned to face him, his phone buzzed on the counter. One glance. One name on the screen. It wasn't a number I recognized, but the picture? It told me everything. David didn't notice me freeze when the phone buzzed. He was too close, his hands still resting on my waist, his breath warm and steady like he was trying to memorize the way I felt beneath him. There was something different in his touch that morning, more deliberate, almost pleading. But it was too late for skin to bridge what silence had created. I looked at the name on the screen again. Brielle. A name that didn't belong in our world. Your phone, I said quietly, stepping out of his grasp. He followed my eyes to the counter and hesitated. That pause, just a second too long, was all the answer I needed. He reached for it, thumb sliding across the screen in a practiced motion, locking it without a word. There it was. The shift. The slow unraveling of 1,000 unspoken things. You've been distant lately, I said, not accusing, just tired. David exhaled. I've been stressed. Work's been, no, I cut in, softly. This isn't about work. We stopped touching. We stopped talking, David. You look at me like you don't see me anymore. He looked down, hands resting on the counter's edge. You think I haven't noticed? That you leave the bed in the middle of the night? That you smile at your phone like I used to make you smile? My heart thudded. He knew. Maybe not everything. But enough. I was lonely, I whispered. I'm still here, but I'm lonely. He turned to me then, eyes wet with something between regret and frustration. So am I. But I didn't walk away. I didn't walk away either. I drifted. Because you let go first. The silence that followed was unbearable. We stood inches apart, yet it felt like we were in different time zones. Still, something lingered, an ache that hadn't left either of us. That old, fragile desire, buried beneath guilt and confusion, still flickered in the air between us. He reached for my hand, gently. "Elena, do you still want this?" I didn't answer. Because in that moment, I didn't know. Later that evening, the house was quieter than usual. No TV murmuring in the background. No music from David's playlist humming softly from the speaker. Just the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock and the low hum of the refrigerator. I was in the bedroom folding laundry, mundane, ordinary, but it felt like something I could control. Something real. David was downstairs. Supposedly finishing up a work email, but his silence carried weight. The kind of silence that fills a space long after the truth has knocked and been turned away. I picked up one of his shirts, crisp, ironed, cologne lingering faintly in the fabric. I held it a moment too long. There was a time I would bury my face in it, smile like a teenager in love. Now I wondered who else he wore that scent for. A notification blinked on my phone across the bed. "Noah, just checking in. Are you okay? You seemed distant yesterday." I stared at the message. My thumb hovered. My heart throbbed with guilt and a strange kind of comfort. Noah's presence in my life had started innocently, shared books, quiet conversations, late-night thoughts that were easier to give him than David. We had never crossed a physical line, but the emotional one, we'd danced around it more than once. I typed, erased, then typed again. "I'm fine. Just tired. Thanks for thinking of me." Simple. Safe. But the intimacy was there, tucked into the thanks. Downstairs, I heard David pacing. His footsteps had a rhythm I knew well, agitated, restless. I set the phone down and walked slowly toward the stairs. Halfway down, I saw him standing by the front door, phone in hand, staring at a picture he didn't want me to see. His shoulders were tense, one hand on his neck like he was holding in something heavy. I stepped back quietly, heart racing. Something was unraveling between us, slowly, painfully. Not loud or dramatic, but in whispered texts, in glances that lasted too long, in words that never came. We hadn't kissed in weeks. We hadn't laughed in months. I remembered the way he used to reach for me in the dark, like he needed to touch my skin to breathe. Now he turned away, and I pretended not to notice. We were becoming strangers, but still tethered by memory, by habit, by the ache of what used to be. That night, we got into bed wordlessly. I faced the window. He faced the wall. But sometime after midnight, I felt the mattress shift. His hand brushed mine under the covers, tentative, like asking for permission. I didn't pull away. But I didn't move closer either. The phone buzzed again. A sharp, vibrating sound that seemed louder in the heavy silence between us. David pulled back, his breath catching slightly. I didn't look at the screen. I didn't have to. But he knew I'd seen it. Felt the air change the moment it lit up. "Don't," he said, too quickly. "Elena, it's not what you think." "Then what is it, David?" My voice cracked, anger simmering beneath the surface. "Because I've been drowning in what I don't know for months now." He opened his mouth to explain, but the words didn't come. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, trying to decide whether to fall or lie about why he was there. I turned away. My hands shook as I gripped the counter, the warmth from the coffee mug long gone. "How long has it been going on?" He didn't answer. That silence told me more than I wanted to know. But before the moment could crash down into a full confession or collapse, the doorbell rang. David and I both froze. We weren't expecting anyone. Not at this hour. I walked to the front door, every step feeling surreal. When I opened it, the cool morning air rushed in, and there, standing under the soft light of the porch, was Noah. My heart stopped. He looked out of place, holding a book in his hand, like it was his only excuse for showing up. "I couldn't sleep," he said softly, his voice steady but eyes searching mine. I was worried about you. David's footsteps behind me were slow but deliberate. He stopped just a few feet away. The energy in the room shifted so quickly it was hard to breathe. Noah, David said, the name like gravel in his mouth. Didn't know you were making house calls now. Noah's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. I'm not here to cause trouble. Then what are you here for? My eyes darted between them, David's narrowed gaze, Noah's firm but careful posture. The lines that had blurred in my heart were now exposed under the soft morning light, and two very different men watching each other. And both of them, watching me. My voice trembled. You shouldn't have come. I had to, Noah replied, eyes locked on mine. You've been living like a ghost, Elena. I couldn't keep pretending not to see it. David stepped closer. Pretending is exactly what we've been trying not to do. And suddenly, I was no longer sure who I was defending. Or what I was willing to lose. The air between the three of us was unbearable, thick with history, longing, and unspoken things that were no longer content to stay buried. I stood between them, a woman torn between the love that built me and the man who reminded me I was still alive. David stepped forward, his voice low, broken. Tell me the truth, Elena. Was there ever us left, or have you already chosen him? I looked at Noah, steady, calm, but his eyes were pleading, too. He wasn't here to win me. He was here because he couldn't stand watching me lose myself. Tears welled up as I stepped back, putting distance between both of them. I didn't choose either of you, I whispered. I've been choosing pieces of myself I lost in this marriage, and pieces I found when I wasn't supposed to. David's expression cracked, finally. So what now? We just throw it all away? No, I said. But we stop lying. To each other. To ourselves. Noah looked down, as if accepting the answer before I even gave it. I turned to David, swallowing the knot in my throat. You were my home, David. But I don't think we've been living in the same house for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I walked up to him and held his face in my hands. I loved you more than anything. And maybe part of me always will. But love doesn't survive in silence. We forgot how to be honest with each other. He nodded, his eyes full. I forgot how to fight for you. Our foreheads touched, not with passion, but with quiet pain. A goodbye without words. As I turned back to Noah, he didn't move. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't triumphant. I never meant to get in the middle, he said quietly. I know, I replied. But you reminded me what it felt like to be seen again. He nodded once. Then handed me the book he'd brought. It was the one I'd lent him months ago, dog-eared and worn. Inside, a photo slipped out. A picture of me, David, and Noah, from a party long ago. But as I picked it up, a note fell from the pages. In David's handwriting. If you're reading this, I know I already lost you. But I hope you find what I forgot to give you. I looked up, David was already walking away. And in that single moment, I realized the man I'd thought was the villain had been quietly letting me go, long before I ever asked. Weeks passed. The air was lighter, though the house felt emptier. David had packed up a few essentials and moved to a small place across town. There were no fights, no legal papers yet. Just space. A necessary silence that now felt honest rather than punishing. We still talked, briefly, kindly. Like two people who had once shared everything but now only shared a history. Noah and I didn't become a couple, not immediately. After that morning, he gave me space too. He respected that what I needed wasn't another man to fill the void, but time to understand who I was outside of someone else's love. The truth was, I had built my entire identity around being David's wife. I forgot the woman I was before that, curious, creative, alive. The woman who once dreamed in color, wrote poetry, and painted kitchens in the middle of the night just because it made her feel something. One afternoon, I returned to that. I found the old sketchbook I'd hidden in the back of a closet and began drawing again. At first, my lines were hesitant. Then they became bolder, freer. Like forgiveness taking shape. Forgiveness, not just for David, but for myself. We had both betrayed something sacred. Not with strangers, but with silence. With distance. With slowly giving up instead of asking each other to fight harder. I met Noah for coffee a few days later. We sat on a park bench, the breeze soft and cool, the world moving gently around us. "I'm not ready," I told him. He smiled. "I didn't come here to take anything. Just wanted to know if you're happy." "I'm learning how to be." He nodded. "That's enough." Sometimes, love doesn't end with a bang or betrayal. Sometimes it fades like music at the end of a long, slow dance. And if you're lucky, it leaves behind a rhythm you can still move to, on your own terms. This story wasn't about choosing between two men. It was about finally choosing myself.